It was supposed to be the perfect Saturday clear skies. Good music, floaties everywhere, and the grill sizzling as friends and family splashed around in the pool. After weeks of planning, my backyard was finally the heart of the neighborhood, alive with laughter and joy. But just as the party was hitting its peak, that's when she showed up. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of our HOA. You could spot her a mile away, marching up the sidewalk with a clipboard in one hand and her phone in the other, already dialing. Her eyes scanned the party like she was looking for crimes in progressing in her mind. She found plenty. She didn't even bother to talk to me first. Nope, she went straight to the curb, waving down to officers like she was reporting a burglary. All because of a birthday banner that apparently violated visual harmony and, get this, the bass of the music, which she claimed could rattle windows 3 blocks away. The police looked a little unsure, but she insisted this party was out of control and needed to be shut down immediately. What Karen didn't know, though, was who she was trying to shut down. See, one of the families enjoying the party that day just happened to be close friends with someone very important. The mayor's wife and kids were here. Not in some VIP corner either, but right there in the pool, laughing with everyone else. The mood started shifting fast, and you could feel it in the air like the moment before a thunderstorm. The cops hadn't even walked all the way in when one of the kids shouted something that made everyone freeze. That was the moment everything started to unravel for Karen, and the party was about to take a turn no one expected. One of the kids, probably around 9 or 10, shouted, "Mom, the police are here." And that's when Mrs. Patterson, the mayor's wife, stood up from her lounge chair near the pool's edge, sunglasses sliding down her nose as she looked toward the street. Her expression went from relaxed to sharply alert in seconds. The officers hadn't made it 10 steps before she calmly approached them, towel in one hand, an unmistakable presence in her voice as she asked, "Can I help you, officers?" Karen, still clinging to her clipboard like a lifeline, tried to cut in, pointing at the party like she was exposing some underground rave. This gathering is clearly a code violation. Noise complaints, fire hazard, unregistered guest count. She rattled off accusations like she'd been rehearsing all morning. The officers glanced at each other, now visibly unsure. Meanwhile, guests were starting to gather closer. The music turned down, but not off. Everyone watching the scene unfold with that uncomfortable mix of curiosity and irritation. Now, here's the thing about our HOA. It's always been a little too strict, but Karen took things to a different level. Ever since she got herself elected to the board, she's treated every lawn, mailbox, and backyard like it's her personal business. She's the type to issue citations for a garden gnome being too whimsical or grass being half an inch too high. And today, with her sights set on our pool party, she thought she had the ultimate power move. But what Karen didn't realize is that she just stepped into something much bigger. The mayor's family wasn't there by accident. They were longtime family friends of ours. And their presence suddenly made every decision from this point forward a lot more delicate. And just as the tension hit its peak, Karen made a move that shocked even the officers. Karen suddenly turned to the officers and demanded they start issuing citations immediately. "This is a clear violation of HOA rules," she snapped. "If you don't act, I'll be contacting your supervisor. This entire property needs to be cleared out now." Could almost hear the record scratch as the crowd fell silent. The music faded to a quiet hum in the background. One of the officers took a breath, clearly trying to keep things civil. But you could tell he wasn't thrilled about being dragged into what looked more like a personal vendetta than a real emergency. Mrs. Patterson raised an eyebrow and crossed her arms, her calm stillness saying more than words ever could. One of her daughters walked up beside her, clearly confused by what was going on. The mayor's wife leaned down, whispered something into her ear, and the girl quietly stepped back. toward the pool. That moment felt loaded like a signal that things were about to shift behind the scenes. Meanwhile, more neighbors started gathering at their fences, some with phones out recording, others just shaking their heads. Karen's war on the block wasn't exactly a secret. People had stories, garden parties she tried to shut down, decorations she ordered removed. Even a lemonade stand she once labeled unauthorized commercial activity. And now she was standing in the middle of a family birthday celebration, threatening police action while the mayor's family was sipping soda poolside. I noticed Officer Daniels, the more experienced of the two, whisper something to his partner, probably realizing this wasn't your average noise complaint. But before anyone could defuse the situation, Karen did something unexpected. She turned back toward the house, took out her phone, and began dialing loud enough for everyone to hear. "I'm calling the HOA attorney. Let's see how you all feel about this when there's a cease and desist order on your doorstep." And just like that, a neighborhood birthday bash was turning into something way bigger than anyone imagined. The atmosphere grew heavier by the second. People exchanged uneasy glances, whispers spreading like wildfire through the crowd. The mayor's family stood still, their smiles gone, replaced by a quiet tension that no one could ignore. Officer Daniels kept his hands near his belt, subtly signaling his partner to stay calm. But you could tell even they were caught off guard by how quickly things escalated. Karen's voice rang out again, louder this time. "This party is illegal. Everyone here needs to disperse immediately. We're not going to tolerate these disruptions in our community." She looked around, as if expecting cheers of agreement, but instead, the only response was a few nervous coughs and silence. Suddenly, from the back of the yard, the mayor's wife stepped forward, her tone steady but firm. "With all due respect, Karen, this is a private residence, and our family has every right to enjoy it. We followed all community guidelines, and there's no reason for this kind of interference." Her words were calm, but there was an unmistakable edge that made even Karen hesitate. For a moment, it seemed like the tension might ease, but then Karen's eyes narrowed, and she shot back. "You're just lucky the police showed up when they did. Otherwise, this would have gone unnoticed till neighbors started complaining." Before the officers could intervene, a neighbor spoke up from the fence line. "Maybe if you spent less time policing everyone else's fun and more time addressing real issues in the neighborhood, people wouldn't be so frustrated." That comment hung in the air like a spark ready to ignite. Karen's grip on her clipboard tightened. The officers exchanged another glance. The mayor's wife took a deep breath, signaling she wasn't backing down. The pool party was no longer just about music or noise. It had become a standoff between authority and community, between rules and friendship. And just as the tension reached its breaking point, Karen made a move that left everyone holding their breath. Just as the air thickened with tension and Karen seemed ready to double down, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen and froze her face, draining of color. For a moment, she looked like someone caught in a lie. Everyone noticed. Even the officers paused, sensing something had shifted. Karen tried to hide it, but the mayor's wife caught the change instantly. "Everything okay, Karen?" she asked, voice steady but with a hint of knowing. Karen forced a smile and said, "Just some urgent HOA business," but it was clear she was rattled. The mayor's family exchanged glances, and suddenly one of the mayor's kids tugged at his mother's sleeve, whispering something that made her eyes widen. Then the real surprise came. The mayor himself pulled up in his car right at that moment. Not quietly, but with headlights flashing and sirens wailing softly, a clear sign this wasn't just a routine visit. He stepped out, looked directly at Karen, and said, "I've just been briefed about this situation, and I want to understand exactly what's going on here." Karen, now caught off guard, tried to compose herself, but the sudden presence of the mayor raised the stakes higher than anyone expected. Neighbors started murmuring, cameras on phones zooming in on every detail. The police officers straightened up, suddenly caught between the demands of an HOA member and the mayor's authority. The atmosphere changed from tense to electric, everyone waiting for the mayor's next words. Would he support Karen's strict enforcement or back the family and their right to enjoy their own party? And more importantly, what consequences would this clash have for the entire neighborhood? As the mayor began to speak, a new, unexpected twist came to light, one that threatened to turn the HOA drama into a full-blown community crisis. The quiet backyard birthday party was no longer just about noise complaints or rules. It had become a battleground where friendships, power, and authority collided, and no one could predict who would come out on top. The mayor's voice cut through the charged silence, calm but firm. Karen, I understand the importance of rules in our community, but this situation calls for common sense and respect. He turned toward the officers, adding, "There's no need for further enforcement here today." The crowd exhaled collectively, relief mixing with lingering tension. Karen's face tightened, realizing her power play was unraveling before everyone's eyes. The mayor continued, "Our community thrives when we support each other, not when we police every detail to the point of division." His words landed like a judgment. The mayor's family smiled warmly at the guests, reassuring them the party would continue without interruption, just when it seemed the conflict had been settled. The mayor surprised everyone by addressing Karen directly. "In fact," he said, "we've received multiple complaints about recent overreach by the HOA. I've asked for an independent review of the board's conduct." Karen's eyes widened as murmurs rose from the neighbors. The very person she tried to impress was now questioning her leadership. The officers stepped back, and Karen lowered her clipboard, realizing the community was no longer on her side. Mrs. Patterson approached, extending a hand. "Let's work together to make this neighborhood better for everyone." Karen hesitated, then nodded slowly, the fight draining out of her just as the party began to regain its joyful rhythm. A loud crash echoed from the back gate. Everyone turned, startled, as a delivery truck pulled in carrying a massive banner, bright and bold. It read, "Community Unity Day, hosted by the mayor's family." The timing was perfect, but the message was clear. This party was only the beginning of something bigger. The neighborhood had won more than just a pool party. That day had won a chance to come together beyond rules and complaints, reminding everyone what truly matters. But with Karen's future on the line and new challenges ahead, this story was far from over. The party slowly returned to its lively pace, but the atmosphere had shifted in a way that no one could ignore. What started as a simple birthday celebration had turned into a moment of change for the whole neighborhood. People gathered around, talking openly about the importance of community, respect, and understanding. Even Karen, who had been so determined to enforce every rule, seemed quieter, reflecting on how her actions had affected more than just the party that day. Over the next few weeks, the HOA board faced the mayor's review, leading to important conversations about balancing rules with kindness. Karen agreed to step back from some of her stricter duties, and the neighborhood began working together to update guidelines that felt fair to everyone. The mayor's family stayed involved, hosting community events that encouraged neighbors to connect rather than clash. Looking back, that pool party was a turning point. It showed how easy it is for misunderstandings and strict rules to divide people, but also how much power there is in listening, compromise, and standing up for what's right. The conflict with Karen was uncomfortable, but it sparked a fresh sense of unity and hope. Most of all, it reminded everyone that a neighborhood isn't just about rules or who has the loudest voice. It's about people coming together, sharing good times, and supporting each other through challenges. Whether it's a noisy pool party or everyday life, Respect and communication can turn conflicts into opportunities for growth. So, the next time someone tries to shut down your fun or step on your freedom, remember this story. Because sometimes, standing your ground can bring a whole community closer and even change the course of a neighborhood for the better. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life moments that inspire.